We're back here on our program as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Nygard International with Peter Nygard himself. And we are talking about the evolution of a very successful international business. You know, you have taken us through the 60s, and I believe we started talking about the 70s. But at the break, I wanted to talk about marketing and how you had to put in place, I'm sure, a very dynamic marketing plan for your company.
Yeah. It's interesting, the evolution of this business. One time, when I first started, manufacture was the king. If you could produce the product correctly at a proper price, good quality, you could sell it. King was the manufacturer. After a while, the manufacturers started to lose out really to marketing, as you know, and then branding and marketing and brand names, etc., became in vogue. And then, of course, we had to join that revolution. One time we had people like Calvin Klein and some of these other people wanted to ask me to market and produce their garments under their Calvin Klein name. And instead of doing that, I decided to do it under Nygard name, you know. So whatever promotion I was going to do, I might as well promote ourselves. And so we became a big brand name as a result, because now brand labels and design labels started to sell. So we went on a big campaign then to do the Peter Nygard designer label.
So when did that come? Which period of time?
It particularly became in late 80s and then the 90s. In the 90s, I evolved into what Saks Fifth Avenue called me the #1 designer in North America. Amazing. You know, from this little print producer now to designer. In the 90s, my product was sitting on New York Fifth Avenue, in Saks Fifth Avenue. All the windows on Fifth Avenue was Peter Nygard. And in that time, I was doing tours, personal tours, to city after city after city, you know, and doing marketing jobs for there were about 36 Saks Fifth Avenue stores, Los Angeles, full of movie stars, etc. And I became the big designer head. That time, Phil Miller, who was the chairman of the board for Saks Fifth Avenue, called Peter Nygard the design genius. They did a toast to the #1 designer in North America. Oh my God, I'm sitting there almost, I said, how did that happen? Mm-hmm. How did that happen? Mm-hmm. You know, and it happened on a lot of things, on product, etc. But I had now evolved, and we put that fashion on, and now I said there was some good-looking designs, you know, in there, you know, and it was truly a designer line at the time. So we had started building in the 90s, particularly the era between 88 to 2004 or something was a huge design push on. And that was all about the designer name and building that whole brand. You know.
And you were doing all of this while you were juggling other things.
Yeah.
You were involved in sports and other areas of philanthropy.
I can't believe how busy I really was. I can't believe how much time I also did on all of the other activities. You know, philanthropy for one. You know, I mean, I was a big promoter of breast cancer cures, breast cancer research, you know, breast cancer detection, and of course celebration of the breast cancer patients. You see my show? Yes. Every show I had breast cancer survivors as the stars. You know, they celebrate their life. Here their daughters are in the audience crying that Mom almost died last year. Now she's a star. She's modeling up to cheer. You know, her dream come true was to be a fashion model star. You know, and so I celebrate their victories like that. And what a thrill that gives me. It's always given me, you know, just to be able to take it from research all the way to celebration of the victory over that terrible disease. And so, yes, I was very involved with that cause, you know, not just donating money, you know, I was involved with it. I was very involved.
Mm-hmm. And so you, in terms of, I believe you assisted in funding, research, and all of this. And you particularly zeroed in on cancer.
Particularly zeroed in on cancer, and particularly zeroed in on breast cancer. But that was the one that hit my customer every single time. If it wasn't themselves, then it was their sister or their cousin or their friend. But there's not one person who is not one way or another affected by that disease. And at one time it was devastating. I mean, had both breasts taken off, etc. You know, and what we've been able to do since then is been quite remarkable. You know, in terms of dealing with that disease. But yeah, you know, you had to pick. You always had to pick your causes. That was certainly my key medical cause. You know, and I'm glad I picked it because it's such a devastating disease in itself. You know.
And since we are talking about Peter Nygard International, we have to realize that we are in the Bahamas, and while you were doing all of this, you were concentrating on developing a Nygard key. Yes?
How did I do that? How did I build that magnificent structure? Personally doing the cranes over there, planting every 2,000 trees there myself, hands-on making every last little detail work. Where did I find all that time?
Yes.
You know, and I'm spending 6 months of the year here in Bahamas, you know, and it wasn't like I was busy designing the product down there, you know. You know, I was doing all the long distance on the phone, etc. But I managed to do these extracurricular activities at the same time. I was very, very busy.
You spent a whole lot of time awake. You obviously you don't sleep too much.
Yeah.
Yes?
I've had a tremendous...
Based on your level of achievement over the last 50 years and what you have done, you have put in a tremendous amount of hours every week.
Yeah, I think double the amount of average person, you know. I think double the amount of average person. In it, I put my days are longer, and you're right, my energy level is blessed with a much higher energy level, therefore less need for sleep. And then I never wasted time in transit. I must have saved 10 years of my life not traveling to work. You know, I was always at my work. My home was always my work. I roll out of bed to work. You know, today I almost stay in bed and work. You know, because it's all on those iPhones, everything.
Yes.
So I found every single location I have my residence. You know, and I live in the middle of my construction or in the middle of my fashion, etc. And so I never wasted any time at all traveling to work. And that was so wasteful for one time. Now it's much beneficial that now you can do your emails and everything else. But before, you know, it was a weight.
Yeah. You develop a particular theme for Nygard Key. It became renowned around the world. A whole lot of people came from around the world to look at Nygard Key.
Most people said they'd never seen anything like it. It was the most magnificent structure they've ever seen in their life, you know, most innovative. The Bahamian airline pilots used to tell their passengers, look to your right, ladies and gentlemen, then you see the 8th wonder of the world over there. You look from most there to see the whole complex. There wasn't anybody in Lyford Key who did not make a visit to Nygard Key. There wasn't anybody in Lyford Key who did not have their big events at Nygard Key. They had the weddings there, they had the wedding anniversaries there, they brought the princesses there, they brought the movie stars there. You know, if you really want to be there, I think I can get you in to see Nygard Key. You know, the Sean Connerys, everybody was there. You know, it was a central spot for everybody. And I'm hosting everybody there, Lyford Key. But I was also hosting all the people in Bahamas. That was a big difference. There wasn't anybody in Bahamas who didn't come to Lyford Key. At the end, never mind just the privileged few, you know. And that, by the way, that ultimately got me in trouble with Mr. Baker.
It got you in trouble, yeah. But we got to focus on take the high road.
Take the high road.
And so back to your fashion business. While you were developing Nygard Key, you were still designing and growing the business.
Yeah, I was just thinking, the Nygard Key started in the early 80s, and I grew, and I built it from 80s to 2000, over a 20 years period. And that was the height of my designing. That's when I became the #1 designer in North America. That's when I did the tours of Saks Fifth Avenue. You know, that's then ultimately when I broke in with Dillard's, you know, became their #1 and did tour with them. You know, and taking tours is a big, hard job. You know, it's like going out as a politician. You know, you go shake hands and kiss babies, you know, and did 3 different locations a day, you know. And I did all that touring to build a permanent goodwill into these places. But to your point is, the point is, and my point is, that I was able to do both. I was able to work incredibly hard in my fashion business, and time-consuming was. I was working incredibly hard. I wasn't working. I was enjoying incredibly this amount of designing. See, my thrill comes from designing.
Yes.
If I don't build something every day, it's a failed day. I gotta build. Even if I just plant a tree, and then, oh, that's such happiness. Look at that beautiful tree. So I gotta feel like I'm building something every day, or the lost day, you know. It's an amazing issue in my life, you know. I think that was just a way of venting my creative juices. I had no need for over 100,000 square foot coat house, but that's not a house. You know, that's an establishment or some sort, you know.
Yeah. So you are having a whole lot of fun in sports, in developing your various retreats. You were meeting, I saw photographs with you meeting kings and queens and celebrities from around the world. So while you were developing your fashion business, you were still having fun.
Lots of fun. You know, the fun part about Nygard Key was the issue of sharing it. The issue of sharing it. It was so much fun to share it, you know. It was so much fun to do charity events over there, which I did constantly. So much fun to do big athletic events there, which I did fun. It was so much fun to be able to use it and share the place, you know.
Tell me, you spent a considerable amount of money sponsoring various teams for several of the Olympic Games. You sponsored boxing, volleyball, all the rest of it. You mentioned what you did in Canada and elsewhere for breast cancer. Why you did it? Why you thought you had to do it?
Because I could, because I wanted to, because that was a measurement of my success. My measurement of my success wasn't how much money I made. My measurement was how I spent that money, how I used that money. It's interesting the difference between Donald Trump and myself. You know, I remember in 1995, Donald Trump was worth $5 million because he had lost everything. At that time, I happened to be worth about $500 million. He sued people for not calling him a billionaire. I sued people for calling me a billionaire. I said, I don't want that. I want to be on that list. I said, I don't measure success that way. I said, take me off the list. I don't belong there. It's interesting. I never really measured my success that way. I measured the success on what I could do with it. You know, quite frankly, to put it bluntly, how I could share it. You know, I often tell this story about what brought that on. I don't know.
Yes.
You know, you know, because I was born very, I was living in I was poor. I don't know if there's anybody in the island who lived as poorly as I did. But there's no running water, there's no electricity, there's no lights, there's no indoor toilets, there's, you know, and we were, by the way, in 40 below zero too, besides that, you know, so which makes it a little bit tougher even, you know, and they would live in a 9x10 shack, you know, and converted shack. And I remember how hungry I was. I remember the priest, God bless his soul, used to come in every second day to teach us English, but the words and the things that he taught us, the ones that always stayed in my mind were the food words. And when he held up a salary, my mouth would water. My mouth would water over salary. Now, I don't know how many people even in this place start getting mouth watering over salary and a piece of little carrot, but that's how hungry I was. And when I got a chance to say that salary 3 times correctly, I got a chance to eat it. And I grabbed that thing and started eating like a hungry dog, right? I said, that's hunger. Now, my best friend was a Chinese boy. The reason he was my best friend because his dad had a Chinese restaurant and he had these chickens hanging in the window. Those was food, and the closer I could get the food, the better I liked him. You know, better friend he became. And he took me in the back room, and there I got real close to water. And I remember all the time there was this toaster, and they put in 2 white bread toast in there. Oh, the smell of that coming into my nostrils, you know, as it was cooking. Pop up the toast. He takes one of them and butters one of them. and he eats it in front of me. And I'm watching every mouthful in my mouth. I'm looking at mine, there's mine. He takes the second one, butters that, and he eats that one as well. He ate what I thought was my toast. I learned one key lesson from it. If I ever have that second piece of toast, I'm going to share it. And I've been sharing my second piece of toast ever since. I've been sharing Nygard key, which has been my second share. I've been sharing my medical stuff here. And that thing, I said, I never want anybody to go through that horrendous feeling, of somebody just so greedy for themselves and leaving somebody else stranded when they could help them and they should help them.
Yeah. You could have built a home outside of Canada, in many places of the world. You could have gone further south in the Caribbean. Yeah. Why you chose the Bahamas?
I was, quite frankly, I never left Winnipeg before. I moved from Helsinki to Winnipeg, both were 40 below zero weathers. Anything that has water and sunshine, to me was heaven, So no, the people took me over here quite to be first in, because I was already a international traveler, and Canadian laws gave us an opportunity to have a residence elsewhere, and they led me to the rate that Bahamas was a good area to go to, and to invest into and become a resident in it. And quite frankly, at the beginning, it was a tax advantage. But as soon as I saw it, it became a love affair. And I'll tell you the other thing, I always remember the Bahamas as well. I remember the Bahamian people always smiling. I remember the Bahamian people when they had this happy face on all the time. I remember the King Erics of this world, etc. And they so welcomed me over and over again, I never figured there was a bad bone in anybody's way, So it was such a welcoming place, They meet me at the airport, they're happy, etc. And I said, this is a nice, happy place to be in. I want to call this home. Yeah.
Yes. Peter Nygard, we stopped at the 90s, but here you are moving into the new millennium. You passed the 90s. It is 2000 now, and you are in the fashion business. Where are you? You are a multi-millionaire by then, and you've expanded the business, and I believe that you are in other parts of the world as well, eh?
Yeah. The pant, the slim pant, is perhaps the best pant in the world. It's interesting. I can make those kind of statements right now. It's the best pant in Canada, best pant in North America, in the world. And it's universal. It fits every type of culture. It's the Chinese and the Indians and the Europeans, and the blacks and the whites and Hispanics. Every kind of body it fits. And every age group, from 14 to 84, every taste level. I never had a pant like that in my life, So it has become a universal pant anywhere I try to sell it. We're number one on TV in London and in Germany and France and Italy and Australia, and we're setting up in India now. We're going even in China, and so the product is with me for eternity now. So it's exciting from that point of view that now the world is the market. But it's a whole new world in market. It's a tough market. It's a lot tougher nowadays than it was in those days.
But how do you do it? How do you get the level of production? And where are you in terms of producing these pants? In Asia, in China, I think you're in Africa as well. Tell us about your facilities.
I have my head office in my own building in Shanghai, for example, and where it controls that Far Eastern market. Most of the fabrics today are Chinese. They're made from China. USA lost that whole business. They don't excel in that fabric market anymore, so China does. And then China, of course, is very advanced in terms of production. So China has dominated this industry now. But Vietnam, strong, we're in there. Cambodia, we're in Cambodia. We're in Indonesia, in Myanmar, over there, in Bangladesh, in India, in Kenya, in Tanzania, Jordan. We are where they want us to be. You know, we know this industry is a first startup industry for most countries. You know, it was so for Cuba. You know.
What is your staff count now?
Indirectly, in joint ventures, we control in some manner about 20,000.
20,000.
Yeah. Yeah. See, because you know, it's a very labor-intensive industry. You know, so there's, you know, I don't have them under my payroll. You know, I have a joint venture. You know, I supply the orders for them and the technique and the know-how. But they get him to be very good at it. I mean, these people are now. And I don't know how much we can teach them now. I think they're teaching us now. They're good. They're real good. So now we're ending up now more with becoming a retailer, and in that regard more of an internet retailer. So it's interesting how we've gone the whole cycle, you know, and now we're even designing from the internet and selling from the internet and shipping from the internet. So I've had to learn this whole new business, you know, how to do the business through pictures.
So it has truly evolved into a global business.
Oh my God.
And you are using technology in a big way.
In a big way. And we were the technology kings in the late 90s and early 20s. We lost it. That technology took off. We weren't able to keep up with it. Now it's like a wake-up call. I said, holy God, what happened? How did this whole industry get biased? You know, you can see the explosion of Google and the internet itself, you know, and never mind email, you know, that's old-fashioned stuff, you know. Now we have to, instead of saying, oh my God, we have to say, OMG, you know, we have to learn the new language, you know. and Twitter's, you know, as I said, this is our tool now, you know, and we are visual communicators now. We do everything by pictures, you know.
Yes.
You know, visual communication, and pictures 1,000 words, right?
Yes.
And so it's you have to learn this whole business all over again. And so few people in my place, with my age, are willing to learn or even can. They're caught there, and their brain will not adapt to the new things. Somehow, I've been able to keep that brain young. And I'll tell you, I think the reason my brain is young is because I'm training it every day. I'm forcing me to learn this stuff, you know.
You're pushing every day.
I'm pushing that brain every day, you know. And if you don't use it, you lose it, you know.
Just some quick questions before we wrap up, particularly for young people, young entrepreneurs. Some very quick questions. What drives you? You know,
there certainly is an inner drive, you know, but I'll tell you, it's the same kind of drive as it is in sports. You know, it's a drive to win. It's a drive to be competitive. It's a drive to win. You know, and I always have said to everybody, I said, all you have to do is be better than the next guy. You know what I was? I was the best sweeper in the group. We had 4 groups. You know who was the best sweeper? Me. I swept faster than anybody else. I stocked the shelves twice as fast as anybody else. I always beat everybody at every game. To me, business is like a game, you know, a sport. That's why I enjoy sports so much, you know, and athletes themselves, because you have to practice, and then you have to go and beat the next guy, and you feel good for doing it. And if you don't do it, you go practice some more, you know, until you do it. And so that it's that, I think there's the inner competitiveness in me that's been brought in from day one through sports mainly. Through sports.
What is left for you, Peter Nygard?
Oh, so much. I mean, I'm at the verge of biggest thing that ever happened in this world. You know, I mean, I'm way out. You know, it's interesting. We have dinner meetings sometimes, you know, and talk about stem cells. The most renowned guy sitting beside me, you know, is this, who is the #1 in stem cells, and he's making speech. And so I was so proud of this. He said, you know, the industry out there, American industry, they're at what you call level 1. They're your own animal stem cells level. He says, I'm dealing with the umbilical cord stem cells, level 3. He said, this guy, he's level 5. He's way up there, soaring by himself. He's level 5. He's really an embryonic stem cell, you know, which is the most powerful one. So here he recognizing now me as being the number one in the damn industry. Isn't that interesting? I get into this industry, medical industry, from necessity, and I end up leading it. People say, Peter, you're the leader. I said, how did I become the leader? It's because you do it the best, that's why.
Yes. So you've spent a whole lot of time and money in science and technology.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and quite frankly, necessity is mother invention. You know, I looked at myself when I was 69 years old, and I said, this trip from 70 to 80 is not a nice trip. I said, something bad can happen on this trip, and usually does. I said, I ain't going on that trip. And I didn't. I didn't go on it. I was just studied, my body was just studied by Harvard statistically, 57 years old. Now I was studied at 76, I lost 20 years. Broke their record. They had to recalibrate. I was scored 100%, you know, on the thing. You know, and you're talking about your lots of vital signs that you got your heart rates and your cholesterol levels and all that key things that measure you, and your strength. You know, like a grip of a 35-year-old. You know, you can break hands. You know, you can't hold that much muscle at this age, unless you're not this age.
Yeah. As for Nygard International, have you peaked? Have you plateaued?
We have definitely plateaued. You know, we lost the whole customer base, the department stores. They used to control 75% of the industry. They're down to 20%. We were the number one with every major department store in North America, sitting in front of it. And all of a sudden, look around and say, where did all my customers go, right? Now we have to recalibrate again. As I said, I have to go after the internet customer. That's a whole new learning experience. So you go to and then you just start climbing back again. So yeah, you start all over again. It's like Nygard Key, it burnt down, and I had to rebuild it.
So you are reinventing yourself on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, that's a good word. You're reinventing yourself. That's not the first time I did it. I've been doing it, you know, over a manufacturer, you know, to an importer, you know, to a designer, a brand designer, all over different processes, to a retailer, you know. Ultimately, I never wanted to be a retailer, but now I'm a retailer, you know. So put the retail hat on. You know, service provider.
Service provider.
Yeah.
And so for the 50 years you've been in operation, you've been providing a service, particularly to women. You've not focused on men.
Men are boring.
Okay.
Boring. 50 years ago, I saw people wearing exactly that suit.
Yes.
Exactly what you're wearing.
Yes.
They're boring. Leo, at least, he wears some new exciting things.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
No, men basically are boring dressers. And remember when men used to look more like women, but they were good-looking dressers. You know,
Yes.
When you had the sword in your hand. Yes. You know, so men got to be pretty boring, and a female is the peacock, you know, etc. And she doesn't need clothes now. It is her high. The woman has her high. Thank God for that. She just loves to get a new piece of clothing on, and even if she just wears it one day, that's good enough for me.
That's a high.
That's her high. That's her high. You want to please a woman, just give her some money and go shop, dear. You know, argument's over.
Yes.
So women have such a high desire to keep on buying and buying and buying, and they keep the whole industry alive. You know, with their habit.
Peter Nygard, you have done well. Congratulations on your 50th anniversary.
You know, I gotta tell you one thing before we wind up. So I look back on this thing, and I look at who I've rubbed shoulders with all this time. And I look at the 3 of the world's greatest leaders. George Bush W., who was my personal friend over there, one of the greatest leaders, you know, him and Reagan perhaps in the world stage. Then I talk about another great leader, Gorbachev. I'm having dinner with Gorbachev at the Kremlin. He writes it to my friend Peter Nygard, you know, etc. I'm having dinner later on with him in Canada. Russia, United States, and then Stalin. Stalin only happened to be the guy who put China on the map. He was the #1 guy in China, etc. And he's my personal friend to this day, and you know, they don't touch each other. He grasps my hand, and you know, etc. Those three leaders are sitting right up there on my board right now as my sort of best friends in the political world. Holy God, how did I do that? China, Russia, United States, of course Canada as well.
Yes.
You know, and then of course there's Perry Christie.
Who's been your hero? Who's been your hero?
My hero?
Yes.
I think it's that group. The most impressive one actually was Charlene, the Chinese one. The vision and what he built. That China, if there's one man who owes that China miracle to his credit, is Charlene. And he was so remarkable. And here he embraced me because I wrote the free trade laws. Now there's another thing.
Yes, yes.
And the free trade laws was the liberalization of trade with China, and which set China up for this huge economic boom. They treated me like God over there. I didn't even know why, but that's why. They had a big, if I go in there and a huge, you know, they got these big rooms, you know, everybody sitting on this side, everybody in the back, you know, like a state dinner kind of thing for me. Over and over again, almost embarrassed as it were. And so Charlene decides to come to Canada to reward me with the number one thing he could do. He could give me the first license to do business in China. That was in 1996. Meanwhile, he has made he and his whole president, everybody's coming to China, to Canada as well. He comes make an appointment with me for Tuesday night. His president says that no, we have to go to Ottawa, and we have to go on Wednesday as well. And so he just says, no, we didn't have to change this to Thursday. You know, and he says, please, Mr. Nygard. I said, okay for him to do Thursday. Anything is. I said, okay, of course, Thursday's fine. You know. He had made an appointment with 5,000 people from Arthur Young who had paid $10,000 each to have dinner with Charlene, you know, in Surrey Strip. Dinner with Charlene. And now Charlene says he's going to have dinner with me instead, he says.
Wow.
And I said, only way I will go for that dinner is if Mr. Nygard says okay, and if he will take me there, and if he will sit at the head table with me.
Interesting.
Oh my God. Now they for sure don't want to have me take him over there. So they quickly come in there and take him in their own car, and he's looking back. He said, what's going on over here? His contingency comes with me later on. It's okay with me. I mean, he's all the way down in the binoculars to see him over the head table. Our table's way at the back over there. They don't want anybody to know who really brought the Charlene to the thing.
Yes.
And you get Charlene, the guys are saying, well, Charlene's not going to be happy. Charlene's not going to be happy. They make the speeches from the back. They welcome Mr. Charlene to the Canada welcomes you, etc. You know, on behalf of all these 5,000 people over here. Then it's Charlene's turn to talk. Silence. Nothing. They said, Charlene's not very happy. Charlene walks over there, takes his drink and walks all the way back to the back room, stands in front of me. I want to salute my good friend Peter Nygard. Everybody at the table stands to Peter Nygard. Then people are amazed and worship. And then Charlene grabs me by the hand and let's go. Took me by the hand, gone down and sat me all the way at the limousine. Said, I'm so terribly sorry. I'm so embarrassed about this. You are my best friend, etc. These guys don't touch, and etc. And it was such an emotional moment what he did there, etc.
Yes, yes.
And how deeply he felt, you know, about the issue, what I had done, you know, and how he wanted to honor me and how that all went on. So
talking about honors, and this is my very last question to you. You have been honored by many people. By Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth of England. You've been honored by Canada.
many times. Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah. Honored by Finland, by the United States, or by the military. I told you about all the different militaries honored me. You know, Finnish military, American military, Canadian military. #1 civilian award they gave me each time, you know, each of the countries, for backing the military. You know, it's
what is the biggest honor, the most revered one you've had?
It's very, very hard to say because in
There's
themselves
been so
they were
many,
so many so special.
Yes.
And that at that moment, the one that I got then was the most important one. You know, it
Yes.
stays in there. But I must say the one in Finland was so special. When I came from having dinner with Gorbachev and came to the Finnish country, and I went to visit the Finnish war veterans who had been depressed and who'd been held under, and Russia considered them as war criminals. And nobody could recognize them, nobody could give them food, nobody could talk about them, nobody could put them, celebrate them. And I'm taking the whole press, the whole contingency. I want to go over there, I want to thank these people. If it wasn't for these people, I wouldn't be here now. I would never survive. They saved me, etc. And I said, no, where are these veterans? And I took them in there. Usually, the Russians would do you in, But now, everything has changed, right? And they couldn't do all of us in. And I took those people to the first time. Can you imagine the first time the man who had been there for 30 years invalid had a chance to put his arm around a woman, Miss Finland. That is the height of our life. There's nothing more special than our arms around a woman. That's the God.
Yes.
And then everybody's going ahead and thanking him, and everybody's crying. It's Easter, everyone is crying. So thank you for what you did for Finland, and I said thank you for what you did for me personally, etc. And pictures of every damn newspaper in front of it, how Peter Nygard went and thanked the war veterans and donated all the new beds for them, everything. And you know what? When Mom was with me, she said, Peter, this is the place you were born.
Your mother was there?
Yes. And she said, this is the place you were born. I was born in that very same hospital, and I revisited back and told her, wow, what a permutation that was, etc. And after that, the Finnish army has always, always given me a #1 medal every year, awarding me as the #1 civil service and recognizing these people,
Peter Nygard, you're an international phenomenon. Thank you so very much. Thank you for being here today. And congratulations on your 50th anniversary.
Thanks so much. You're such a friend. Thank you so much.
All the best. Thank you for watching and listening to our program. Good evening, everyone.